Tiger fans, what's going on, guys? So I think this is how the new format from the videos is going to be. I'm going to try to do one of these every other week, just for time's sake. But I do want to get on here and catch back up with you guys. You know, I kind of want to touch back on my last time on here and some of the things that I had said. So last time I came on here, I was talking about how the offense was bad and that the pitching was going to start to show cracks. And before you know it, this team was going to be 9 games under 500. And I was really pissed off about how the Kansas City Royals, are a legitimate team this year. And the Tigers are now 6.5 games back in the standings. And I know a lot of people looking at it after the series in Arizona are going to be like, oh, well, the offense looks better. Oh, they had 21 runs in 2 games, blah, 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 whatever it was. But all I could see is this underlying factor. But you're going to see by the title of the video, copy paste, this team is no different than last year's team. This team is no different than the trash they've been running out the last few years. You go ahead and look at the lineup. Torkelson finally has 3 home runs. He finally got off the schneid. He had a big home run against the Marlins. He had a couple of home runs in that series. Had a home run today at Arizona. But overall, not that great. You look at the overall lineup construction. You substitute out Eric Haas for Carson Kelly. Carson Kelly finally had his first double of the year in this series in Arizona, had a couple of big hits after being basically nothing since the start of the season in Chicago. You sub out Jonathan Scope for Zach McKinstry, who's been had one good month as a Tiger, and that was last year in May. Jonathan Scope had one good month as a Tiger where he hit 10 home runs and he got a 2-year contract extension. He was terrible. We look at Javier Baez. His first year he comes in, would he hit like 14, 15 home runs, 16 home runs? We're like, there's no way he could be any worse than he was his first year. He was awful last year. He was really bad. There's no way he's could possibly be that bad again. Yeah. Well, he somehow managed to prove that. He can somehow be worse than that. Again, copy-paste. Last year in Toronto, he gets benched after running into an out, not knowing how many outs there was. Comes out, rips it up in May. Was terrible the rest of the year. What's he doing again? He's had a good series so far in Arizona. He's had some hits, some extra base hits. He's probably going to be trash the rest of the year. Again, copy-paste. You substitute out Joey Wentz. You bring in Kenta Maeda. Copy-paste. Same results. The bodies and the names are changing, but the results are the same. It's this constant merry-go-round where you're just chasing yourself. And the annoying part is you play within a division that there's opportunity to take the next level. There's opportunity to be the best team in this division. There's no reason why the Kansas City Royals should be this much better than you. Minnesota, it's not surprising. They just got their ass whipped by the Yankees. But they just had a 20-game stretch that was off the charts. Not surprising coming from a team that won the division last year. Not surprising with a team that has a much better lineup than the Tigers do. But the Tigers have a better pitching staff than they do. The Tigers have a better bullpen than they do. You look at Cleveland, all of a sudden this year they're hitting. But I would be willing to put the Tigers 5 up against their 5 and see how it goes. It's just a copy-paste, same results kind of thing. And, I don't want to come on here being negative and complaining every video, but it's like, you play the Miami Marlins at home, copy-paste. Last year, Tigers couldn't win at home. Again, this year, Tigers can't win at home. Offense just goes right away. Copy-paste of last year. Tigers are winning on the road this year more than they're winning at home. Copy-paste of last year. It's the same results. They play the Marlins. They get shut out 2 days in a row by one of the worst teams in all of baseball. Shut out 2 days in a row. And they would have got swept if it wasn't for Spencer Torkelson hitting a big home run in the 8th inning. You blow those games against the Yankees, where you should have took a series from them. You lose a series to Miami. You know, you could have had a sweep today in Arizona. I will say I can't be mad about taking a series. I'm not going to complain about 2 or 3. But you're back at 500. You're over a quarter of the way through the season, and you're at 500 after starting 5 games over 500. It's just not winning baseball. It's just not a recipe for success. The mental errors that this team has, the defense falling off the cliff that it had been. There's just not a lot of bright spots right now. And, you know, everyone's going to talk about where the offense hit better and they had that offensive explosion. Like, you look at the first game of this Arizona series, I mean, it's 13-0 by the 6th. I think the Tigers had like 17 extra base hits in this series against Arizona. They absolutely stung the ball the first 2 days of this series. You know, Zach Gallen really held them, you know, through 6 innings, and then they exploded for 6 runs, and then, you know, went 8-3. But you look at day to day, it's like Colt Keith goes 4 for 5 the first game of the series, and then Zach Gallen just humbles him. Looked terrible. Spencer Torkelson, second game, looked terrible. Now, Javier Baez, oddly enough, he had a really good series. Like, he was making a lot of hard contact, and he sparked that rally in yesterday's game when they were down 2-0. Because Flaherty, I mean, I feel bad for him. Again, another game he pitches his heart out, and finally the Tigers' offense wakes up enough to give him some run support, to give him his first win, because he's just been pitching great. I mean, this is what I was talking about when they signed him. I mean, he's looking like he did back in 2019, where he's maintaining his velocity. His slider looks absolutely unhittable. He's got a good changeup. He's got a good feel for his curveball. It's looking like vintage Jack Flaherty. He's looked really good. Casey Mize, you know, he's looked good as well. Tarek Skubal, he's pitching at a Cy Young frontrunner pace right now. But copy-paste, yet again, there's that same theme. Matt Manning's on the mound today. Can't throw strikes. Can't get swings and misses. 1 strikeout all game today. Ineffective through the lineup 3 times through. Can't even get through twice. And you wonder why he did not make the team out of camp. Can't get out left-handers. Giving up home runs in Toledo. Left-handers are hitting him up in Toledo. Copy-paste. Same year, different result. Or same year, or different year, same result. Excuse me. And that's all his team is. That's all his team is. And, you know, I'm happy they're over 5. I'm happy they're 500. I'm happy they're not 10 games under 500 like they've been most times the last couple of years. But at the same time, like I said in my last video, and I'm not going to keep beating a dead horse, when's the next step? When is this team going to take the next step? You know, I'm glad they scored some runs, but they scored some runs against Cleveland. They absolutely pummeled, what was it? Who they faced? Was it Bybee that they faced? Or was it, God dang, I can't remember who it was. They pummeled him at home. They scored like 7 runs off of him. Or 8 runs off him. I can't remember. But like they've had these outbursts already this season, and then they get shut out 2 days in a row. So it's like, where's the consistency? You know, I'd rather see them score 5 runs a game or 6 runs a game. Realistically, a more realistic average is 5 a game, than score 13 every once a week, and then you get shut out once a week. Because when you go 13-2, 6-3, 3-1, and then you get shut out twice, it's like, what kind of week is that? You know, there's just no consistency to it. Now, on a brighter side, just to not make this too negative, because there is things I'm happy about that I'm seeing. Colt Keith's at-bats have been much better. Way better. Oh, you know who I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of when they faced Christian Javier the other day at Comerica Park when they pummeled him, when Mark Canha hit the grand slam. That's what I was thinking of, not Cleveland. Excuse me. When they had that big offensive explosion. But, Colt Keith's at bats, he should have had 2 home runs in that Houston series. He took Justin Verlander to that triangle. And, my brother made a funny point that Colt Keith started kind of Nick Castellanos-ing it, where he's complaining about the dimensions of the ballpark. But it's like, kid, listen, this is the park you play in. This is the organization you play for. I don't really like that when players complain about their ballpark. I thought, like Riley Green's approach when Riley Green was a rookie, when he first came up, I remember there was a game where Riley Green hit one 422 feet, which would have been, I think it was might have been a go-ahead home run or a game-tying home run. And they asked him about the dimensions of it before they pulled the wall in. And he said, I should have hit it farther. And I think that's a better response than complaining about a ballpark. I understand he's a month and a half into his career, but I didn't really like that answer. Nick Castellanos was so much of a crybaby about Comerica Park, but Colt Keith is ripping the ball. I mean, although he looked like shit the second game of the series, that first game of the series where he went 4 for 5, I mean, he was hitting the ball. And one thing I will say that it's a promising thing is, he's been ripping the ball to the outfield with some pull power. He should have a home run by now. Like, Comerica Park has gobbled up a couple of them balls that would have been homers at other parks. But one thing that I really like that I'm seeing more of, and it's a good sign when it comes to player growth and, getting his footing in the big leagues, is he's taking the ball the other way. And Colt Keith is a good opposite field hitter. And we've seen that a lot in spring training when he was, actually hitting home runs and whatnot. But taking the ball, being able to hit the ball the other way and up the middle is a great sign, because he's not selling out for power, trying to rip one in the seats and swinging and missing and striking out a whole bunch. I think his strikeout rate's under 20%. Honestly, his strikeouts are pretty manageable. He puts the ball in play a lot, regardless if it's hard contact, but he does make contact, it's a good sign. But, he's taking the ball the other way a lot. He makes contact. It's not always consistent, and it's not always with a lot of power, but I am liking the fact that he is hitting the ball the other way a little bit more, because, one of the greatest hitters of all time, who we watched for his entire career, Miguel Cabrera, most of his home runs were right center and right field. I mean, that guy was a opposite field hitter with power and a line drive hitter. And you can hit the ball the opposite field and you can hit it with authority. That's a good sign, because you're not just trying to pull the ball and rip home runs. You're peppering the field. That's a good hitter right there. So I like that, and I'm happy that Torx finally put some balls in seats. He ripped a few balls, and he had a couple of doubles, and I think he's still leading the AL in doubles too, which is odd for how low his batting average is. But Colt Keith's still hitting under 200, even with that 4-hit game that he had, because he went 0 for. But like today, he had a pinch hit, and he hit it the other way. I mean, just a great at bat. I'm happy about that. Winsel Perez, a couple of triples. He's been an absolute shot in the arm for the offense, an absolute needed shot in the arm for the offense. I'm really hoping that he can maintain some kind of a level of this production. We've seen a lot of first-half guys and that struggle a lot in the second half after the league gets a hold of them a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see, how the league adjusts to him, and because he's got power. I mean, he's only got a few home runs, but that kid hits triples because he's fast. Like, he's got legitimate speed and he's got gap power. And what I like about him is he's not just trying to hit homers. I like the fact that he's not afraid to hit the ball into the gaps and just run. He's not just trying to sell out for power, because he's got to have 4 or 5 triples by now, because he's got speed and he's really good at utilizing his ballpark, hitting into the gap like he did with Arizona, a decent triples gap in that place. So he's been a breath of fresh air, but I'm interested to see how the league adjusts to him. I will say one nice thing about him that he kind of has an advantage over is the fact that he's a switch hitter. So, he's got he's been able to hit from both sides of the plate, 2 different plate approaches. I'm sure how you get him out from one side to the other might be different because you have different arm angles, and he's always got the handedness advantage, so he's seeing the ball from the opposite side on both sides of the plate. So I'm sure how you get him out lefty is different than how you get him out righty. But so far, I mean, that kid can hit a fastball, and he can hit him into the gaps. And he hasn't played that bad of an outfield either for a guy that was an infielder. So, he's been a breath of fresh air. Kerry Carpenter, who got thrown out trying to have an inside the park homer today, he's starting to hit, he's hitting the ball well. He finally woke up. Riley Green's been in a little bit of a slump. He's not hitting homers like he was like a few weeks ago, but he's still doing a good job. He's not walking as much, but he's the linchpin of the offense. Again, I'm happy about Torkelson. Matt Vierling isn't hitting too bad, but grain of salt with that guy. He's kind of playing because of it just is what it is. Andy Ibanez, I'm very happy with. He's doing a great job coming off the bench. I think AJ does a great job how they utilize him and how much playing time he gets, when he starts, who he starts against, his at-bats, appearances. The Tigers, I think, do a really good job with him, and he's a nice weapon off the bench. So, you're not getting anything out of your catchers. Avi Baez sucks. I don't know how much more leeway they give him. So, I don't know. Bullpen is becoming a little bit shaky. Not surprising. They've already logged a lot of innings. I feel Shelby Miller went down and they brought up Bo Brisky, and he pitched yesterday. He looked good. Andrew Chafin, he hasn't been as good as he was his first time as the Tiger. His swings and misses just aren't as much. And it feels like he's giving up way more hard contact than he was his first time as a Tiger. And even Tyler Holton, feels like the hard contact off him is more than it was last year. But I mean, it had to be, because last year he was an absolute outstanding pitcher, insane. Seems like the strike throwing for Lang's a little better, but still inconsistent. Foley, his velocity is down some, but he's still getting the job done for the most part. But I don't really fault the bullpen that much when you have a team that has been this offensively inept. They wouldn't even be 500 if it wasn't for that bullpen and all the 1-0 games that they won early on in April, especially early on during that win streak. So, they held them into a lot of games, and they've helped them win a lot of games, and they helped them even be 500, so you can't really complain about that. But overall, the overall theme of this video, just copy-paste, man. Year to year, it's all it feels like. It's the copy-paste. A couple of faces changed, but the results are still the same. You're not seeing much progress. You're not really seeing a team that can win the division or make the playoffs. And it's just disheartening when you have teams in your division that won 56 games last year, and you won, 78? And they're a much better team than you. It makes no sense, man. It just makes no sense. What I'm hoping was going to happen is Cole Keith's going to find his power stroke. Torkelson's going to get a little bit more consistent at bat to a bat, and keep hitting some homers. Riley Green's going to find his stroke again. Hopefully they can get something out of the catching position. Once Perez stays consistent like he is, Matt Vierling helps contribute. Andy Ibanez keeps putting balls into the gap in the seats. Kerry Carpenter, wakes up a little bit like how he has been and keeps poking him out of the ballpark and, hitting doubles. And the offense perks up. Is it going to happen? I don't know. This is the same conversation we've been having for the last couple of years. And you figure, bringing up Parker and Colt, that the offense would change and the consistency of the offense would change, and that the power outage of the last few years with them not even being that 1 year, they barely hit 100. This year it's not looking like they're going to even get to 150. So, I don't know. I'm over prospect hugging. That's another thing I wanted to talk about. I'm over prospect hugging. I'm over thinking that anybody's untouchable. For all the shit I gave Dave Dombrowski, where, he would trade bigger prospects. Now, mind you, those prospects that were bigger in the Tiger system at that time weren't really top-end guys like Max Clark. because most of the time, Tigers would lose their picks because of draft pick compensation from signing type A free agents. Well, the Tigers have that upper echelon of prospect now, whether it's Jung or Clark or McGonigal. I really don't know what to consider Justin Honey-Malloy at this point anymore, considering he's going on year 2 as a Tiger and he's hitting again, and yet there's still nowhere to put him because he's defensively inept. But point being is Dombrowski was never afraid to trade a prospect to get proven players, whether it was pitchers, whether it was hitters. He wasn't afraid because, like, I can remember Jacob Turner. Jacob Turner was looked upon as the guy that was supposed to complement Justin Verlander in the rotation for the next 10 years. He was supposed to be the next guy. Frontline dude, first pick, I think in 2009. That was the Trout draft. And he made one start as a Tiger, or maybe 2 starts as a Tiger. And they traded him to the Marlins for Anibal Sanchez and Omar Infante. Turner didn't work out whatsoever. And Infante was a big contributor. And Anibal Sanchez had a great run as a Tiger. So I'm to the point with prospects that I don't care anymore. I just don't care. I'm tired of thinking that calling this guy up is going to do anything. I'm tired of thinking that this guy is going to come up as a rookie and he's going to help turn the season around because, you know, something... There's been so many articles written and so many things said about how the gap between AAA and the MLB now is so big that if you look at like all the big name rookies that came up, this was supposed to be good this year. But there was Jackson Holiday, who got 2 hits and with 34 at bats. Wyatt Langford, Evan Carter, you know, Colton Cowser's been hitting, but like Winsell Perez has been one of the best rookies in the AL. He's been one of the few rookies that have come up this year that have actually been able to hit. Most of these guys are coming up from the minors and AAA, and they're just struggling. Parker sunk. Colt Keith, you know, his numbers aren't pretty. So it's like, I could see why Dave Dombrowski traded so many of these guys for proven talent and guys that had numbers on the back of the baseball card. Not every team is going to be the 2017 Houston Astros where they had that young core and they drafted great and all their players panned out and they had the right mix of veterans. Not every team is going to be how the Baltimore Orioles are now, where they're just hitting on every prospect they draft, whether it's Gunnar, Adley. I still think people calling Jackson Holiday a bust after not even 40 at-bats are morons. But Jackson Holiday, Colby Mayo, Keston Herstad. I mean, they have so many guys that they have drafted, and they've already hit on a couple of them. Grayson Rodriguez. And they have so much prospect capital that they could go out and get anybody they want. Anybody that's a pending free agent, any piece of need, and they will still be loaded. Still. But with the Tigers and most teams, you know, they're calling up these young kids and they're just not good. It takes a couple of years. And when you're a team that's on the fringe and you're a team that's trying to take the next step like they are, you can only wait for so many years. You only have a short window of time with these players before you have to pay them. So by the time these guys get 3 years into their thing, these other guys that were supposed to be a part of your core are about to get paid, and you have to decide what you want to do with them. And are they fringe guys or the guys you can build around? You know, like what Baltimore's done is just not normal. So for me, it's like if the Tigers, if somebody came and offered the Tigers proven hitters for Max Clark, I wouldn't think fucking twice about it anymore. If somebody offered the Tigers proven hitters for Casey Mize, Matt Manning, Reese Olson, I don't care who it is, Jace Jung, Parker Meadows, I don't care who it is. I am no longer prospect hugging. Because the one thing that this has opened up my eyes to, when the Tigers were really good in the 2000 teens and their prospects stunk, but Dave Dombrowski flipped them before they had a chance to show that they stunk at the big league level, let other teams take the risk, and then you got some people that could actually perform for those prospects. It worked out. You know, it worked out because most of those guys never became anything. Most of those guys were never good. The only player maybe that you could really get burned by, was like Eugenio Suarez. He turned out to be something good. That was a bad trade. That was a really bad trade. And when you traded Doug Fister, and then you trade Robbie Ray, like those were bad deals. But prospect hugging and keeping these guys around and going, yep, these guys are going to be it. Yep, these guys are going to be the next core. Yep, these guys are going to help them take the next step. Not any of those guys, or not every one of those guys are going to be Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, and Jackson Holiday. The chances of that all happening, what they did in Baltimore, is ungodly slim. It's like a lottery ticket pull. But Mike, who I do baseball banter with once in a while on here, he's a guy that always gave me shit about prospect hugging because he's not a prospect hugger. He wants proven talent. And I think after this year of having, for the first time ever, having legitimate prospects over the last 8 years, guys with hype, Green, Torkelson, Mize, Manning, Skubal, now Max Clark, Jung, all these guys, were these guys with actual name, actual talent, actual ceiling, actual potentially superstars. And after seeing how these guys have developed, seeing how they played in the big leagues, seeing how they performed in the big leagues, injuries, looking back on it, if you could have went back and traded some of these dudes when they were big name prospects and got guys now that are even slightly above big league average for them, that are even slightly above, being able to be regular contributors on a more consistent level, would you not have traded them then to even have, if you could have looked at all those prospects, Green, Torque, Mize, Manning, Skubal, Olsen, any of them, Jung, if I asked you, would you trade 3 of those guys, 3, and got 3 hitters that were proven that could hit 260 to 270 with 15 to 25 homers, would you have not have done it looking at this team now and how still consistently offensively poor they are? I would have. Looking back on a hindsight 2020, I know it's a lot easier, but this is my point about, I am the biggest motherfucker who's guilty of this. Prospect hugging too much. Thinking that this next guy is going to be Ronald Acuna Jr. And 9.5 times out of 10, it doesn't happen. So you know something? I'm to the point now with these prospects where I'm happy, these guys have potential, and I'm happy they have real deal potential ceiling talent. But at the end of the day, it's fucking potential. It's not in the big leagues. And if anything we've saw out of these crop of prospects that we have had all the hype around, where you really only 2 of them, Riley Green, who's been hurt, Tarek Skubal the most, that's actually hit their ceiling and their potential. Out of all those guys, we know Jung's ripping up. We don't know how he's going to be. Kevin McGonigal. We don't know how any of those guys are going to be. Parker Meadows could be the next Akil Baddoo, but just could play good center field. We don't know how any of those guys are going to be. Would you not have traded them at the peak of their hype to get a guy in there that could pop another 20 home runs in this Tigers offense, that could hit 260 to 280? Would you not have done it knowing what the offense looks like now and how the team has underperformed yet another year in a row offensively? So that's all I got to say about that. I'm done prospect hugging. Literally, if somebody came up to the Tigers and offered them, if they traded Max Clark and Ty Madden, and they were able to go out and get somebody that could hit, that could be a middle of the order bat, that's already proven to be a middle of the order bat. Like, imagine if we had, now I'm not saying I want him because he strikes out so much and he's such a boomer bust guy, but imagine if we had someone in our lineup right now that was like Marcell Ozuna. You were able to grab somebody in their lineup like Marcell Ozuna with that kind of production. Tell me that would not make this fucking team at least 3 games better, 4 games better over 500. And it's a proven piece. That's the fucking consistent thing about all this. It's proven pieces. When the Tigers got Doug Fister, they traded Luke French and some guy named, I think, Nick Martinez or something like that. He was a third baseman. And Casper Wells. Doug Fister was a fucking great pitcher for you for years. Omar Infante was good. Anibal Sanchez was good. And that's my point. I'm over fucking prospect hugging. Because I'm tired of this copy-paste bullshit every fucking year. Where a team can't hit, you bring up these prospects that are supposed to be the next fucking best thing. They struggle because the fucking gap between AAA and MLB is bigger than ever. And hitting for these guys, how they're teaching these guys how to hit, the hitting philosophy is fucking different as ever. And the pitching is the breaking balls and everything, and they're throwing harder than ever. So to see these guys, to see a Ronald Acuna or any of these fucking guys up there, it just doesn't happen anymore. And it sometimes takes years, fucking years, for these guys to even be half of what their overall potential should be. And it's like looking at Spencer Torkelson. Do we honestly think this point as Tiger fans that this guy is going to be what he was supposed to be as a 1-1 overall pick? No. I don't think so ever. This was supposed to be a guy that hit 30 to 40 home runs every year. He did it one time. I highly doubt he gets to 30 this year. With as bad as his plate approach has been, he's been able to pop some balls. He's been able to hit some doubles. But a bat-to-a-bat consistency is dog shit. So I don't know. Long rant. I don't even know why I went 10 fucking minutes into that. I'm just over prospect hugging. I want some fucking proven hitters. It's great these guys have Baseball America rankings. You know what I want? I want MLB rankings. I want guys that have their fucking OPS plus on the back of their card say 115 to 125 for a 5-year window. That's what I want. I don't give a fuck if they're number 3 ranked in Baseball America. I want to see them on MLB.com doing it in the fucking big leagues. Over prospect hugging. That's why I haven't been on here at all in the last 2 months saying, let's get Jace Jung up here. Come on, we need him. We need his bat. Because I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm over that shit. I said that shit about Colt Keith last year. I was bitching about it for Riley Green. I was right about that one. They needed his lineup. They needed him in the lineup when he came back. He should have been in and he helped. I was right about that one. But I bitched about Parker Meadows. I bitched about Cody Clemens. Fucking over it. So, I don't know. I'll be back in a couple of weeks, guys. Apologize for the length of this video, but I needed to say it because it's driving me crazy. Have a good one. Go Tigers.